Hello and welcome to another Empower People blog. Today we've got a gentleman who's come up testing the wonderful fresh air all the way from Peterborough. Can I introduce you to Rob?
Hi.
And Rob is one of our new riders and he's new to the charity after sheer frustration of being led down a garden path by wrong devices being fitted and wrong approaches. He got in touch with ourselves to see if we could help him to do with his motor and his braking system, and I'm pleased to say that so far
I now have a fantastically usable bicycle for the first time in my life. So yeah, I mean, if I can just take a second and say that I bought this as a standard bike, and had it for about a year. Have never been able to use a back brake. The condition I have is brachial plexus palsy, which was a birth injury. So I've had this all my life and just always learned never to use. I could only use a back brake. This year I decided that as I'm getting a bit older and a bit less fit, I would look to have an electric motor, which I had fitted earlier on in the year. And this led quickly to a problem that with the additional power the motor gives me, that I couldn't stop. This led to a nearly amusing incident with me bailing into a ditch. So I decided that really I had to find a better solution to actually having a brake, two brakes that I could actually use. So I got in contact with Simon and Neil at Empowered People, who said bring the bike up, and they had a good look at it and we spoke about all sorts of ideas. In fact, we spoke about some really quite complex ideas, but when they actually saw the bike and had a look through their toolkit of wondrous things, they discovered this, which was an extension bar which would allow them to move the front brake to the left hand side of the bike, and with a bit of careful placing so that the levers, and then maybe I can demonstrate that they're slightly spaced apart so that I can use either or both together. For the first time I can now have a front and a rear brake, which is it's amazing. I mean, our first ride, Neil took me to a local hill, and from Peterborough we simply don't have hills as you do here. This would have frightened me senseless before I had two brakes, but under full control I was able to come down this very steep hill. Absolutely fantastic. And further to that, they also looked at what they could do with the gears. Another of my problems only being able to use my left hand is that I couldn't change gear, which for the rear gears, because they're always mounted on the right hand side. And Neil had a better idea where we could fit a twist throttle upside down, I think is the correct, and change the rear derailleur to match the type of shifter. So I mean, as I'm sure you'll see in the video, there's quite a lot going on the left hand side of this bike now. So one of the other things that I think is worth mentioning is, because I use my left hand and I have more pressure on the handlebar, my hand tends to go to sleep and I get terrible pins and needles. Some people call it the death grip, is what I've heard it referred to. Neil came up with the idea of trying some different handlebars. I've never seen handlebars like this, where they sweep back and relieve the pressure on your wrists. You have a slightly more upright position, and on the 7.5 miles today the prognosis is promising. Obviously I have to ride a bit more, but certainly the positioning on the bicycle is far more comfortable, and I'm really positive that this is going to make a huge difference to my riding. Today we've been on a 7.5 mile ride, up and down hills, very steep hills, absolutely fantastic, and I cannot thank Empowered People enough for everything that they've done to help me.